Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast. I'm Mike. That's Jules. That's John. Jules, we got a lot of topics to discuss this week, but first I want to do a quick shout out to our listeners and say a big thank you, man. We got more countries and places around the world that have listened to this podcast besides the United States, the United Kingdom, India, Israel, the Ivory Coast, Barbados, Canada, our neighbors to the north.
Yeah. Last time I checked.
Last time I was up there. Pakistan made the list, and I don't know where the hell this place is, but Azerbaijan, Azer. You guys know where that
Middle
is?
East.
It's in Africa.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, Africa?
I don't know. It sounds like it could be in Africa.
No, I thought it was the Middle East, but all right.
But yeah, I mean,
sure.
God bless you all.
Then I was like, oh shit, is it Northern Africa? Now I'm gonna have to Google it. I sound like a moron if I'm wrong here.
It sounds like a deli I went to down the city one time when I was getting some Greek food. But hey, listen, man, thank you for fucking listening to us, man. Like, really big thank you.
Maybe
so
throw us
cool,
a shout out since if we're wrong or if we're right, so we don't look retarded when we're shouting out next time.
Don't hate us.
Bro, the NFL is such a monster, huh, man? We have people in countries that fucking we never even heard of listening to us fucking idiots talking about a specific team.
Right.
That's wild to me.
It is.
Who knows? Maybe they're avid like sports gamblers out there, right? We always do have segments on betting and everything. So maybe they like tune in to see like what the hell we're betting on. We mentioned college basketball last week. So I don't know about you, Mike. I've been definitely dipping and dabbing in that that tournament.
Or Jules, so they had or they had a fucking they bet here in the United States, they lost their house and had to move to Hyderabad, Pakistan.
Or it could just be, Leo and Dexter just traveling the world together. Listening to
That's true.
Yeah, right.
They just keep hitting us up.
Man, they like to travel, those guys. All right, so Jules, what topics we're gonna run into?
Well, listen, let's get into it. Let's get into some of these signings that obviously, unless you're not really paying attention to social media, or the news, or ESPN, or any kind of sports outlet, that you would know that the Giants went out and signed Matt Breida and Jihad Ward for the latest signings for the Giants. And look, to me, I don't read too much into it. I think Matt Breida is a really good depth piece signing. He's always been a solid running back, even in his days in Miami and San Francisco, and then on the Bills. I mean, listen, if you really look at some of like the Bills games over the last season, he came close to running that position, and then he had a little bit of fumbleitis. And then their guys kind of stepped up to the plate and they kind of took over in foundation and cemented their role as number one running back. And then Breida kind of fell off, especially into the playoffs. So, he's a decent running back. He's got definitely a good change of pace type back to a Saquon Barkley, let's say, or depending on what happens in the draft and whether or not we keep Barkley, obviously this will be conversations that we have, leading into the draft in the next few weeks. But you know what? Overall, I think that's a good signing. When it comes to Jihad Ward, I really think that that's just a guy that, was on the Ravens. It's another person that they're bringing in that actually knows Wink's system, and basically what they're doing there is just a depth piece. He's going to be able to help these guys. He's not looking to come in and be a day one type starter. It's more of a rotational piece, a depth piece in case someone gets hurt. Maybe he helps step up with some of these younger guys. If we definitely go out and draft someone, he could definitely sort of be there as his veteran type player. I don't know what you guys are feeling, but that's all I take out of that.
Was he signed as a linebacker or a defensive end?
He's a bigger dude, so I think he's more of like a traditional defensive end. If you really think about it, that whole edge position, at least in my opinion, has been something more of like the last 5, 6, 7 seasons where, this edge guys come into play. It used to just be an outside linebacker. They'd have a weak and a strong side outside linebacker, and that was the end of it. And now with these different looks, with these 3-4 sets, they walk him up to the line, they call him edge. He can sometimes drop back in coverage. Most of the time,
like a 3-4
quarterback. Yeah, like sort of like a hybrid position. And I would say maybe that was like over the last 10 years or so that really developed into that. Traditionally, this guy would be sort of, more of like that traditional lineman, gets down on the line, in a full-point stance type of thing, going after the quarterback, stopping the run, where it could work. I mean, if he became sort of more of that bookend on the one side and then you had Ojulari be more sort of that edge position on the other end, I could see where this would kind of like coordinate with one another. But again, I'm not reading too much into Ward. I think Ward is just more of sort of a depth piece. I think he's there to just kind of help bring along Wink Martin's system and just kind of incorporate it with some of the younger guys. I think people are reading in a little just too much with all of our signings.
They always do.
Granted, I mean, listen, you're right. They definitely always do. Look, I think that
like
some
Matt
of them are
Breida,
going to be. I think some of them are going to be starters, especially on the offensive line. With like Feliciano and guys like that we mentioned last week. But outside of that, like a lot of these, you have to have depth. I mean, if there was one thing. And I say that very lightly when I say if there was one thing, but if there was one thing that, you could say that Gettleman made a mistake with last year was not putting enough depth on that O-line. Sure, he was like, hey, we spent all these picks the year prior.
He did it late. He did it late, Jules.
Right, that's what I mean. Right. At least we're doing it ahead of the draft so we could see what we have, and then we can go out and get these pieces that we need. And then if and after the draft you didn't get everything you wanted, now you go out and get some of those late fill-in type players rather than getting those out of necessity, which I think was done last year. So I think people read into too much of this shit. And when we get closer to the end of the show, I'm gonna give some prime example as to why I think people fucking read into some of these signings and wish lists that occur before the season and before the draft. It's all gonna tie together. So I'd rather tie that all up at the end. But guys, what are your feelings with these signings?
As far as the defensive end, I think you're 100% right. I mean, I don't think they signed him to be their starting fucking defensive end, but to have a guy who's familiar with Wink Martindale's system that can play, hit the ground running for us as a rotational player and be able to be in the ears of the younger guys, especially Ojulari. And, we're all thinking hopefully the Giants draft, top of the draft, Thibodeau or fucking whoever, Hutchinson, whoever it is, or however you say it, Jules, Thibodeau or whatever you say.
I call him Thibodeau now. He's my boy Thibodeau because I'm starting to feel like he might land there at 5. I don't know. Come on.
Yeah, if he's on the Giants, you gotta learn his name for sure. But
he's on that radar now.
It's just not that you want your players kind of like, needing to teach the system. Like that's what like Pat Shermer's thing was. But just to have somebody in there who's, in the off season, they could train together. They can get familiar with the lingo a lot easier. It's definitely worth having them there. But, it's the real fun is going to come in a few weeks when we go to the draft. That's when we're really going to see who, what the direction the team's thinking they're going to be going in and like real legit starters. These guys, Matt Breida, the only way he's a starter is if Saquon gets hurt. I can't fathom that they're going to trade him, but let's just say there's a 10% chance that happens. Guys like that aren't going to see the field at 90 snaps a game.
I like Matt Breida.
What happened?
I like Matt Breida. Like I always picked him up in fantasy football every year just because like he'll have like good moments. And I think that's what the Giants are kind of hoping for. Like, hey, if Barkley's a little slow, if he goes down with an ankle injury or something, he could step in there and have a good game. Like I'll take him for a couple good games a year if that happens. But the hope is Saquon just has a good game. Or good year.
Yeah, best case scenario, you got Saquon healthy for 17 games. So, and he's playing 65, 70% of the snaps, and then he's just getting spelled by a guy. So, our two, what happened?
Do you guys think they're signing guys like Breida and stuff to kind of manage Barkley's reps and make Barkley kind of like a guy like not just like a third down back, but maybe kind of like a little change of pace. Maybe we give Barkley like 2 downs instead of all 3. You know what I mean? Something like that. I don't know.
I think if Saquon's healthy, you want Saquon on the field. And I think that they think so too. So if he's on the team, I think that they're going to want him to play as much as humanly possible. I think it makes more sense to have him on the field for spell him for a drive, not necessarily just being like, oh, he's our first or second down back, and then having somebody come in as a third down back. Because if you continue to do that through the season, defensive coordinators on the opposite teams, they're going to be able to kind of plan accordingly. If he's kind of coming in and being able to swap in and out at random, you have to prepare for him in every situation, not so much just first and second down like running plays.
It's just weird. We got 4 of them now. We got 4 running backs.
I gotta agree with John there, right? I kind of think it's a little along the lines of like a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt type situation, where maybe he won't get as many reps as Hunt gets, but like, yeah, he'll still come in. What I see a lot of these teams do is that opening running back kind of just takes like that opening drive. And then by the second drive, it's either they get like the first, maybe, 2 or 3 handoff or, maybe 4 or 5 snaps, they get a first down. And then all of a sudden you get that other running back that comes in, and that guy, if he's running well, he takes them all the way into the red zone, and then he might even be there for the goal line, or they might switch right at the goal line. Okay. So, I think you might see a little bit of that. You definitely saw that in Buffalo. You definitely see that in Kansas City. And that's what we're talking about with Dable and Kafka being the OC and the head coach now. So I think you're going to see a little bit of that. Look, the possibility is still there that they might end up drafting a running back. I mean, you cannot count that. You can't discount that. That is a strong possibility that we might get a running back. And look, you know what? Like the Bills are making moves. I mean, they're signing key guys. I mean, they just signed Jamison Crowder. We know about Von Miller, but Crowder was a big signing this week. I mean, that kind of replaced Cole Beasley right there in that one swoop. And they've been rumored to go after Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, here's a team. And the reason why I keep mentioning the Bills is here's a team that, we're joking around on social media, and we're starting to call the Giants like, the New York Bills South and all these kind of like little like things that are just coming out there.
Giants.
With all the signings and coaches that we're bringing in from that organization, where, look, you know what? If it does come around and we're getting close to draft day and the Bills feel they got what they got in that first, second round pick, maybe Barkley does go for a third round in the conditional. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden we ship him up to Buffalo. And then now all of a sudden with an extra third round pick, we're looking for a running back without question. And then you have the veteran in Matt Breda. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not trying to make any predictions on that.
I think it would have happened by now, Jules. Like if
I don't know though. That's the crazy thing. I don't know now.
Well, Buffalo and the Giants, like they have that relationship. Why wouldn't they just get it out of the way and get a guy like Barkley up in Buffalo if they really want him? I just don't think that, even putting Barkley's name out there, I don't think they're getting the return that they think they would get. I think maybe they did get offered like a 4th or something. I don't think teams are going to go higher than a 4th rounder coming off an injury. I just don't see it.
And that's cool because this literally leads us into our next topic in a sense. And when I see a veteran quarterback who, look, by all means, I love this guy. I used to draft him all the time as my quarterback in fantasy. All right.
Matty Ice.
When I see Matty Ice getting traded for a third round pick at 36 years old.
Wow.
Here's a talented guy at 26. Yes, he had some injuries. I get it. He only really had one monster season. I get it. I know all the knocks on him. I'm a Giants fan. And a Barkley fan. So
though, for a third round pick is because they seen Stafford have success as an older quarterback in LA.
Sure.
They figured the Colts could get him too.
Brady for that matter.
Brady,
You know what I mean? Like that's the norm in a sense. So, when I see that, like, as selfish as a Giants fan, I'm like, well, fuck that. If Matt Ryan's going for a third round pick, which by the way, I think was a brilliant move. Okay. I said we're going to get into this trade talk, so I think it was a brilliant move. They literally dumped off Carson Wentz's fucking salary, plus got back a whole bunch of picks and said, you know what? We're going to use the third round pick that we got off of the fucking commies. And we're going to trade that and we're going to get fucking Matt Ryan in. And you know what? The big thing with that is with the Washington Commanders, AKA the commies, they literally were sitting there and they feel good and they eat all of Carson Wentz's contract because they're like, next year, we don't have to pay him. Next year, he doesn't count against the cap. But listen, if I'm sitting there and I have my choices between those two teams, two quarterbacks, I'd much rather have Matt Ryan come to Washington than fucking Carson Wentz. All right. This dude played in the NFC East in the past. We see what he can get. He's literally on his 3rd team in as many years. And now you got him coming in and you take one of the picks that they got. I mean, Washington, how stupid are you? You could have had Matt Ryan for the 1-year deal, right? For the same less money and only a third round pick. Instead, you give up the fall for Wentz. I thought it was a brilliant move by the Colts, especially if they're going to look to maybe get a quarterback, whether it's this year or next. It's probably next because they have Matt Ryan. They did ink him for the 2 years now. So that's official. They took the whole contract on, including his signing bonus. Mm-hmm. So that was part of the reason why I think Atlanta was so accepting of taking a third round pick. So, because they ate that additional $7 million that he was guaranteed as a bonus or whatnot. The Colts ate everything. So, I mean, the Colts are basically showing it. They're like, look, we didn't win with Rivers, so we went a little younger by like 2 years. We didn't like what we saw with Wentz. And now we're literally going to try to see what we can do with Matty Ice, who I think with that kind of a running game and that kind of offensive line, granted, they're going to probably need to draft a receiver in this year's draft. But the Colts are there, man. They're making noise. There's a lot of a lot of noise going on in that AFC that's making that AFC very, very scary. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, like I said, selfishly, I think Matt Ryan fucking for a third round pick, how could Barkley not be at least equal to that at this point in time? Matt Ryan looks like he may be towards the end of his career, and Barkley's a question mark because he's an injury risk. To me, they're both kind of risky. How is this guy going to be that much more overvalued than him? So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think on that.
There's no fucking shot in the world you get rid of Saquon Barkley for a third round pick. I don't care if it's the first pick in the third round. Twice, like 2/3. You don't. I mean, the potential of what Saquon can be if healthy and if behind an offensive line playing in a scheme that actually fucking benefits its players. Thanks, Jason Garrett and fucking Joe Judge. The upside of what that could be, it's just you cannot gamble that because you have him at the 5th year, and then for a reasonable amount of money, you can franchise tag him at least one more time. So you have 2 more years, up to 34 games with Saquon Barkley at a pretty reasonable number. What, $7 million a year? It's fucking nothing, especially with the cap going up as much as it is in the next couple of years. You can't give up. You can't give him up without getting a serious haul. I don't know if he's going to give it because his injury. If he didn't get hurt and he ran for, let's say, 1,300 all-purpose yards last year, 6 or 7 touchdowns, you're probably going to talk about getting a second-round pick, maybe a first-round pick from a team that thinks it's just a Saquon Barkley away from a Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, well, let's just put it this way: had he stayed healthy those last 2 weeks until a couple of years, your boy Getty wouldn't have just given him an extension. Your boy Getty would have fucking signed him and paid him. You know what I mean? So this conversation wouldn't even exist if that was the case. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
John, let me throw a quick one at you then, real quick. What if, right? And again, there's a lot of ifs within this equation, right? So this is like if, right? But what if we did trade straight up for a third round pick, but knowing that now having 3 third-round picks, we could then take 2 of those and trade up for a second-round pick, knowing that was sort of like a 3-team type of fucking trade type of thing situation going on. Would you be acceptable over there where you get an extra second-round pick?
No, man. You have a scratch-off ticket, right? And maybe the chances are he's probably not going to go off for 2,000 yards each of the next 2 seasons and 20 touchdowns each year. Chances are that's probably not going to happen. The football gods just don't shine their light on the Giants that often. But if it did, then there's no compensation you could get that will be worth that type of production and that type of influence on a football game. In the second round, what are the chances you're going to be getting a player that's can have a Hall of Fame caliber season for 2-3 years immediately? What are the chances in the second round you're going to find that guy? Not very great, maybe 5% to 10%.
I mean, but if you look at some of the past drafts, right? You got Nick Chubb, he went in the second round. You have Jonathan Taylor, he went in the second round. You have Alvin Kamara, I believe, went in the 3rd or 4th round. I mean, these guys are there.
So hard.
These are your top running backs that are all going in later rounds now. It's no longer the Ezekiel Elliott's that went in round 1 and I mean, LaDainian Thomas and those guys are things of the past. But I was going to say Leonard Fournette, but anyway. Mike,
until a regime shows me that they could actually draft well later in the rounds, I just won't believe it. Like, I know what we have in certain guys we have already. So I wouldn't trade in him for a 3rd or a 4th, I just wouldn't do it, man. It's just like, it's a crapshoot. It really is.
Right. I mean, what are the odds that you're going to get a player that's as impactful as what Saquon Barkley's potential is? Maybe even saying 1 in 10 means that there's going to be 3 players of Saquon's caliber in the second round that are drafted every year. And that's not even possible. That's not even true. Maybe 1 or 2 guys a year are drafted in the second round that can play to Saquon's potential. Not what he's done the last couple of years because he's been injured and, the offensive line and everything else that we've been complaining about. But how many players in the second round on average are drafted that can be a 2,000-yard player with 20 touchdowns?
But that's the thing. Not many, but that's the thing, right? Like the problem is that you don't know. And the way things have looked of late, all these running backs are going later. I mean, you look at Rashad Penny, he went in the first round and he sucked. It was the guys that went in the second round that were better, right? So like it's a tough situation. Look, if Barkley was healthy, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. And that's the key there. if he was healthy. So
Yeah.
the only thing that's scary with Barkley is can he stay healthy, right? Because if he stays healthy, he has a monster season. I don't know if the Giants resign him. Yes, we're gonna have a ton of money next year, but
Franchise.
it really depends. It
Lot of
really
money.
depends.
A lot of money.
It really
Hey,
depends.
listen, that'll be a good problem to have if Jones and Barkley step up and have monster years. That's a great problem for us to have.
Of course,
Bro,
it is.
You know,
course
we'll
it
by
take
this
it.
time, by
Stop
this
worrying
time
about the
next
cap.
year, yeah, if Saquon Barkley goes, puts up 1,800 all-purpose yards, plays 14, 15 games, scores 12, 15 touchdowns, not a Giants fan's going to have a problem. Not one Giants fan's going to have the biggest Gettleman Saquon haters. They're not going to have a problem with us franchising fucking Saquon in 2023 for him to play for us for a reasonable amount of money.
They probably
No one's
still
going to
will.
care.
They probably still will.
So
They'll still pitch.
Mike, you wouldn't
You know
wouldn't trade Barkley in that scenario either, then, right? If you were able to, pull off the 2 third rounds and get a second round pick.
No, I agree
and
with
in order to
John
now
said.
2 second round picks, 2 first round, 2 second round picks,
No,
and maybe a conditional, right? Where like next year, depending
First
on
round
who
picks, you
plays.
said?
I
listen.
said no. So literally, if you were able to in a dream scenario, of course, get a third round pick straight up, and then trade those 2 thirds for a second and know that now you'll have 2 first rounds this year, 2 second rounds, a third round pick, 2 fourth round picks. I mean, and then have a conditional
thing you're
pick where
gaining
if
is
this
a
guy
second round
plays
pick.
14 games, you got like a third round pick again next year. Like, I don't know, man.
No, man.
That's a lot.
You would have to get up to like a
have-
a high second round, like just to get a second round. Like maybe it's the first pick of the second round where it's almost like a first rounder, but still, I still wouldn't do that. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So then
I named my dog after him, for Christ's sake. I'm not fucking trading.
I mean, that's a fair point. That is a very, very fair point. So then moving on back to the signings and in the quarterback world. So we know Matt Ryan is now going to be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. But also in a couple of moves, the Saints went out and re-signed Jameson Winston to a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Nice money. Looks like he's going to be the starter there. And then the Falcons went out and acquired Mariota. Guys, what do you think? And listen, Baker Mayfield is still, as of today, the March 22nd on Tuesday, Baker Mayfield is still floating out there as a free agent. Rumor has it that Cleveland was actually trying to get a first-round pick for this guy. I don't know how true that is, but there are definitely rumors circulating out there that is. Guys, what do you think? You think that the Falcons are done with Mariota? Do you think there's any chance Baker ends up in Seattle? What do you think? What's going on here? I mean, or does the Saints, are they a dark horse to maybe draft a quarterback? What are you guys thinking?
I think Mariota is like they signed him in Atlanta because he's teaming up with like an old coach. So he's got like that familiarity right there with him. So I think he stays. It's weird, man. Like I know like we're in a good position to trade back if somebody wants to get a quarterback and all that. But with these teams signing, they're going crazy for quarterbacks and making deals and sign them this year, which just tells me that this draft is so fucking weak at quarterback. That's why they're making these kind of moves. And if they draft a quarterback, it's pretty much in a shit year where you're not really, competing, so to speak, and you're just letting those guys slide here. Maybe drafting a guy to be like kind of like a project, which I kind of think most of these guys are, even though people think Willis is supposed to be this amazing game changer type guy coming in as quarterback. Listen, if there's a team that really like him and they want to trade up, for us, hey, I guess we're in a good position to trade back at 7, and I'm willing to do that if we get an extra first and a couple late draft picks for this year. But who knows, man? But I mean, I guess time will tell on that. But I just don't see the fucking quarterback hype. But like I said, Jules, in a text message with you, I think I'm gonna stand by my gut and say a quarterback don't get drafted within the top 10 this year.
I agree with you, Mike. I definitely agree with that. I can't remember a season like this, man. I think like half of the league has been involved with some type of quarterback trade so far.
It's wild.
There's been like 6 or 7 or 8 moves. I mean, each move usually involves 2 teams. It's always gonna be a trade unless like Brady, retired and came out of retirement. But the majority of teams are trading guys, and
is it the Matt Stafford effect?
I guess it could be that. But everybody knew LA was really a quarterback away from being, a contender, a true contender again. And they just proved it with, getting a guy like Stafford in there.
I did say that on this
I don't know.
podcast. Remember when we were with Giants Brawl, I was like, oh, they got Stafford. They're going to win the whole thing if the Giants don't make it.
Yeah.
Told you.
So listen, I mean, yeah, John, yeah, please.
I think Mike was right that it shows that people aren't hyped about this quarterback class. You don't make these kinds of moves if you think that, you're going to be drafted a quarterback. I don't think, why would you, with the availability of these veteran quarterbacks, and then the hope of a draft pick, and the fact that so many people are interested in trading away for, not even considering the fucking quarterbacks in the draft and just shuffling around the pieces within the NFL already. I think that's got to be an indictment on the quarterbacks. And when you listen to a bunch of people that aren't like just there to sell the NFL product and the fucking future of the NFL quarterbacks, some of these guys are fucking telling some bad stories about these quarterbacks just not being all that great. Like they're just like run of the mill average dudes, and weak mechanics for this guy, and fucking just different issues. So I think it's very possible that the league isn't really hyped on them, and you might not get a quarterback drafted in the top 15, top 20 picks.
I think they're more hyped up on offensive line. They're more hyped on the offensive line this year.
Right now. But here's something I want to throw at you guys really quickly, all right? And I think we can all agree on this point. The NFL is what they call a copycat league. Can everybody agree with that, right? Anytime they see a system work with a team, the other teams are quick to go out and try to copy that shit exactly, whether it's the way an offense is run, whether it's the two quarterback committee, whether or not there's a dozen different things. Can we all agree on that? Is that fair to say?
I would agree.
All right. So then with that in mind, right? What if this class is getting a little bit sort of shadowed, if you would, right? Or overlooked is probably a better way to phrase this, right? Getting a little overlooked because this being a copycat league, if you look at the last two quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, Tom Brady in Tampa, Matthew Stafford on the Rams. Both guys end up on this team for the first year. They have success, a team ready to go, built to win. Couple of key pieces were put in Tampa. Brady goes the way. Stafford, couple of key pieces get put on the team. Beckham, Von Miller, they go all the way. So now teams are sitting there going, shit, thinking the Colts here, right? They get a couple other moves that we saw, Russell Wilson in Denver, right? Yeah. All of a sudden, these teams are like, fuck, let's go get this veteran quarterback. We've got a solid team. We were just in the playoffs. We just missed the playoffs. And now we got ready to gear up and go. I don't know, right? And, and again, I'm one that said that I'm not thrilled about this quarterback class. But again, I also think that someone's going to emerge from this, whether or not it's Willis or Little Ham Pickett. I don't fucking know. But I just feel like one of these quarterbacks are going to step up and emerge. So I don't know if it's a little bit of a copycat situation or if it is really that the class is down or if it's a combination of the two. Because, Mike, the thing to keep in mind is, and everybody loves talking about the modern era, right? I joked about it earlier today on Twitter, and it got taken all seriously because, Malik Willis made a cross-body 67-yard pass. And I'm like, yeah, in practice, where he knew he didn't have to worry about getting hit, where there was no defense scheming against him, where there was no defenders on the field. Yes, he threw a fucking 67-yard dart. No one's taking away that this kid's got talent. Nobody, all right? He can run and he's got an arm. We know that. How accurate that arm is, how good he is under pressure, how well he can go against defenses that are scheming for him. That shit's what remains to be seen. That's what people don't understand. There's tons. One thing I just got to go on, I'm going to deviate from the subject for a second. But one thing that drives me nuts is there is so many talented guys in the NFL. So many. Like guys that don't even make it. They're super talented. And then when you get on the field, that talent diminishes because they don't have those tangibles to continue on. So until we see this guy in an NFL game on this center and actually getting pressured by NFL defenses with guys that have been coaching and scheming against these type of offenses for the last decade or two, then we could start putting out the evaluation on how good Malik Willis is. But anyway, with that said and done, right? Going back to what I was saying, whether or not it's a copycat league or if it's a little bit of the fact that we don't know how good these guys are. Maybe they're not as good as what people are saying. And also keep in mind, guys, now everybody talks about the modern era. And I was getting back to what I was saying about the throw that he threw to 67 yards across his thing. I brought up a guy, Browning Nagel. My father used to talk about it when I was a kid. The guy literally on his pro day from one knee threw the ball 75 yards on a knee.
I remember
right
that.
From the start of the time, threw the ball 75 yards. I was like, oh my God, This guy's gonna be the next Dan Marino.
Who's
Like,
this?
oh,
Who's this again?
Jets
Browning
got him,
Nagel.
Browning Nagel. And you can Google this shit, all right? And everybody's like, yeah, well, did he do it accurate? Did he do this? Did he do that? That was a different era of football. All right, cool. All that said and done, it's all bullshit. I'm just trying to compare the fact that people have always been known to show off their arms and throw these great passes and do all these things. As I was saying just before, with the whole talent, that there's tons of talent, but obviously Browning Nagel didn't have the intangibles. He was a statue behind the line of scrimmage. A million different things you could say about him, why he didn't work out in the NFL, right?
I bought 20 rookie cards of Browning Nagel back in the day, just based off of that, Jules. Just based off
Thank you.
20 rookie cards, thinking I was going to make a lot of money, and I will never get hyped off a guy throwing the ball in his fucking pajamas ever again.
You know what I'm saying?
Shit.
Dude, how good was Ryan Leaf supposed to be? Like, this shit happens all the time. Ryan
Bro,
Leaf
get drafted
was
before
supposed to be
fucking
picked ahead of
Peyton
the Hall
Manning.
of Fame, two-time Super Bowl fucking Peyton Manning, right? So, like, dude, I can go on and on, but anytime someone talks about arm strength or they talk about how far someone could throw the ball, I always bring up the Browning Nagel. Yes, it's mad old school. Yes, I was super young and I don't really remember a whole lot of it, but like, I always remember the story that my father would tell me and how hyped he was because the Jets had gotten him. Anyhow, with all that said and done, you also have to keep in mind one last thing, guys, in this quote unquote modern era of football. I'll even go back further, and I'm going to say over the last 22 NFL drafts, the last 22 now. So that's the fucking modern era there in a nutshell, is it not? Only twice has there not had a quarterback that went in the top 10. Only twice. All right. In 2000, so you're literally at the real start of this whole time frame. And then in 2013.
And 2022.
Huh?
In 2022.
Well, in 2022. Sure. Right. So, guys, the question here is, with all that said and done, with all the hype, with all this, what do you think it really is? Do you really truly sit there and believe and say that the Malik Willis and Pickett and Riddler and the other one down in Ole Miss, none of these guys are going to be NFL quarterbacks. None of them are going to last. None of them are going to make it. Or do you think that maybe there is a little bit of that copycat going on and teams are starting to just try to copy what the Tampa did and what the Rams did, and that is influencing it a little bit? Because if not, do you really think Atlanta is set with Mariota as their quarterback for the whole season? And then what's Seattle going to do with their 9th pick? And Atlanta, so Atlanta at what are they, 7th, I believe? And then, Carolina with the 9th pick from Denver. Carolina at 6. And then Atlanta at, I believe 7 or so. And Seattle at 9. Are they all going to pass on quarterbacks? I mean, you guys are really that set on that?
I think they might. I mean, if you go back to through all those times in NFL drafts, like, Peyton Manning coming out of Tennessee. He was the golden boy. He was projected number one. He was taken number one. There was no doubt about it. I know him and Ryan Leaf, they were going back and forth teams, but Peyton was always the guy. And it's just unfortunate that, Ryan Leaf and drafted number 2 by San Diego, just like, San Diego's, they were a mess. So him going there didn't have like that great of an impact to begin with. Plus, he was a head case. So you got to take that into account, too, when you're going through all these combines and you're interviewing these guys. So it's very difficult to judge a quarterback, how they're going to be able to handle the scrutiny, the media, everything that goes behind, to be an NFL quarterback. It's really tough, man. I get it, Jules. Like, everybody wants to try to get their quarterback because there's not a lot of them. So they try to reach for one. And listen, I'm hoping a team reaches and they want to trade with the Giants so we could trade back and get a fortune. But I honestly don't think NFL teams are that stupid this year. And that's why you're seeing all the trade frenzy. And I don't think they're going to make that move to come up. I think if one falls at the top 10, a team will scoop them up.
I think the copycat only applies to a team like that copycat philosophy thing that thinks it's a quarterback away from competing for a Super Bowl. And
Denver,
how many teams?
Indianapolis come to mind immediately.
That
they made the move.
I mean, Denver, look at them. I mean, look, they were a decent team.
Denver
they were
too.
They were a 500 team with Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah, doesn't that say? You have Jerry Jeudy and you have Cortland Sutton and you had these guys that are like right there. And then they had that running back game that's going now. Yeah, I mean, they might be thinking that they're a quarterback away from at least competing really seriously.
Of course, they got a loaded
AFC.
squad.
One last thing I wanted to throw in there too, guys, or is it now also a thing of where a year goes by where quarterbacks are so reached for in a sense where it's ridiculous. They go over the top and then things don't seem to work out right. Because look, People want to put Trey Lance, which is absurd, but already I'm seeing him getting put inside the top 10 for the NFC in quarterbacks already. Guy hasn't even fucking played a full NFL game yet, but okay, whatever, right? And you have Trevor Lawrence, who didn't have the greatest year. You have Zach Wilson, who's still out on debate. Justin Fields, we still got to look for. You have all these quarterbacks that went, right? And they were like highly touted after, right? You had this fucking draft where teams are trading up and trading back and trading down. Well, I bring up to you, and again, I don't want to go too far back because I was trying to say let's stay within the modern era and all this kind of shit. I mentioned earlier that 2000 was literally was one of the two times that no quarterback was taken in the top 10. If you look at the 1999 NFL draft, they had a quarterback go in the first 3 picks. Oh my God, that does sound kind of familiar to what happened last year. Okay, literally had go with that, and then of course within the top 12 there was an additional 2 taken. Wow, does that sound eerily similar? Okay, so again, they repeat a lot of shit. History is known to repeat itself. That's why we go and study history when we're in school, right? And just to bring up what happened in 1999, you had Tim Couch go overall to the Cleveland Browns, okay? Followed by Donovan McNabb, who had an outstanding NFL career. Achilles Smith was the 3rd quarterback taken off the board to Cincinnati. I mean, come on. All right. And yeah, I'm bringing it back here, okay? And then if you go down the list, you had Dante Culpepper, who had a lot of good seasons on Minnesota, but you know what? He had about 4 or 5 good years. That's about literally the extent of what he did. I mean, they were outstanding, but that was the extent of it. And then to finish off, last but not least, Cade McNown. And then that following season in 2000, no quarterback was taken in the top 10. So I don't know. It could be a combination of those kind of things right now. But you do see it, right? And then obviously, in 2000, I mean, the first quarterback off the board was Chad Pennington, number 18, who actually had a decent career. He wasn't great, but he had some games. He had an all right career. Yeah, so I don't know, guys. I'm still not sold completely that this entire draft class of quarterbacks is trash. But at the same time, I also don't want to see the Giants taking one at 5 and 7. I don't care how many people sit here and literally try to debate that Malik Willis is already better than Daniel Jones and that we're being racist. Stop with all that bullshit, please, everyone. All right, just stop with all that nonsense. This is what I like. The facts that I'm putting out currently on this podcast are basically where this whole situation is coming to a head. Could it be a combination of all these things? Probably. That's more likely. Is it a combination of certain teams in need of a quarterback doing a little bit of a copycat type league where they're just going to try to mirror what Tampa and the Rams did? Yes, there's definitely going to be some of that. Is there some of these teams that are afraid to get burnt? Because let's face it, last year's class might be eerily similar to what the 1999 draft class was in comparison to what happened in 2000. Yes, that's also a kind of concern that I see with some of these teams. So you have those different things going on, which makes it seem like this quarterback class is a little bit less talented, if you would, than others in the past. So I don't know. You know what I mean? But look, man, I still think that a quarterback does go in the top 10, because if not, then who, like I mentioned to you guys, who's Carolina taking? Who's Atlanta taking? Are they really good with Mariota? And who is Seattle take with that 9th pick? I mean, guys, let's go with that.
I don't think you just draft a quarterback as just to draft him if you're one of those teams. If you don't have faith in it, bro, you got to remember the entire fucking college football season, all they were saying how there was no quarterbacks the entire fucking season. And then we said it as soon as the season ended, watch the next couple months how the fucking draft, they're going to shoot up the board. Yep. And here we are in fucking late March, a month from the draft. And we have guys that are supposed to be going fucking in the top 10. Listen, it may happen. You have guys, GMs who are going to roll the dice on fucking, hopefully fucking striking a rich with one of these quarterbacks in the draft. Like you might have something like that. But while they were on the football field, none of them were regarded as super high-end caliber players to draft with a top 10 pick or a top 15 pick. No one was the entire season. And not until 3 months after they stopped playing football are they now being mentioned as potential top 10 picks. So once they took
off their uniforms and put on their PJs, then they became top 10 picks, no doubt. But let's take a quick commercial break. on the BBO NYG podcast. We'll talk some more topics before we get out of here. So we'll be right back.
Let's do it.
All right, we are back on the BBO NYG podcast. I'm Mike, that's Jules, that's Sean. We're talking all sorts of crazy shit there. But I don't know. Should we talk some combine and?
Well, I was gonna throw out one last thing for you guys, right? Since we always talk about GMs and everybody else, everybody always does, right? So look, you're the GM of Carolina, Seattle, and Atlanta, and the head coach, right? Whatever, right? Let's play fucking devil's advocate. As the head coach, GM of Seattle, you're okay with Drew Lock?
No,
as your quarterback for the season.
That doesn't mean anything.
Right. You had the night.
You're not playing for just next season.
Like, you crazy? Are you crazy?
Even though Carroll said that he thinks he could win a championship with it, which I think is fucking ridiculous.
He's getting fired mid-season. Like that, bro. He's gonna get fired.
Yeah, they can't go out and fucking say anything but. Like you never hear coaches say, "Oh, that guy's not good enough." Like you don't hear, that, especially when
Mom always used to say, "If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all." So like you ain't settled on Drew Lock, just don't fucking say nothing.
They're asked.
That shit.
Yeah, they have to say
responding to a question.
Yeah,
they're being asked a direct question about a player, and what are they supposed to say? No comment.
Right.
No, he's not good. He's not good enough. He's fucking garbage.
Well, listen, they have to say the political. Wait. What did
my dick pack cows are drunk?
What did Shane and Dable say, right? About Jones? They didn't go out and say, "Oh, Jones is going to win the NFC East." They're like, "That's our quarterback. We think he's got good skill sets.
That's true.
We can do different things with it." That's what you answer. That's how you answer. You don't go out and put yourself out there and be like,
"That's a PC answer.
I could win a championship with Drew Lock." Like, really?
That's a PC answer. I get that.
He wasn't asked a direct question. Do you think that if they would have said, "Do you believe that you can win the division or make it to a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones," he was going to say no?
We're taking it one day at a time. We're trying to get the right personnel in here. We got a lot of work to do. We're not setting any kind of expectations for this team. We got to go out and see what we do in free agency. We got to go out and see what we do in the draft, and then we'll kind of reevaluate what we have, and we'll go from there. That's it. Boom, you're done. You don't just come out as a two-time Super Bowl coach.
He's not coming out and saying that. He's not coming out.
You just lost your franchise fucking player, and you lost your linebacker. That was a stud linebacker for that defense. And you're going to say you can win a championship?
They're done, Jules. They're done. They're fucking done. Like, Pete Carroll's done. He's the next Walking Dead character. It's over for him, man. Like, he's going to get fired. Just like he got fired with the Jets and got fired in wherever, New England or whatever the fuck he was. He's done. He has no more Russell Wilson. He's finished. You can't win without a quarterback, man. It's like love and marriage, man. But, anyway, did you see the hype on the combine now with Cross being like projected on the pro day? Sorry, the pro day being projected to go to us now at number 5. So let me ask you guys this question now. So the other tackles are gone. Your boy Ikunu, Icky, and Neal is done, right? So now at number 5, are we really going to take the third best tackle at number 5? Or do we just take the best player like how it should be? I vote the best player. What do you guys think?
I mean, can I get Thibodeau there at 5? Can I at least get fucking Thibodeau there at 5 and both tackles and Hutch off the board? I mean, come on.
I mean,
like the fucking Jets, man. They don't want. Listen, the Jets are pissing me off. This draft hasn't even started, and I keep talking about the Jets, because they're the team. They're that fucking team that I could see trading back. And letting the Seattle move up to grab a quarterback. I can see them. I can see Thibodeau falling to them and then fucking taking him. I can see them going a million different ways. I fucking hate the Jets this year. All right. They're just sitting there right at that position where fuck you. You're going to ruin my fucking April because you're going to just snag a guy I wanted, or you're going to get the trade that I would have loved. And then I think we might settle. So I don't know, man. I'm hoping that this Cross hype and the media coverage on it and everybody pumping him up, he jumps one of the other two.
Oh,
that's what I'm really hoping for, right?
I thought they're trying to blow smoke. That's what I thought.
Right. Like, I hope that this fucking shit gets so hyped that all of a sudden Cross gets taken ahead of Neal or Icky. You know what I'm saying? And then Icky and Neil falls. That'd
be crazy.
Fucking fantastic.
That would be
Way
crazy.
to blow up the smoke. Media, well done. Check. So that's what I'm really hoping and holding out for. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you, when that Thursday night comes and we're doing this shit live and we probably have a couple of drinks in us and the motherfucking Jets are on the clock, you're going to see fucking crazy ass Jules coming out of his realm because I'm going to lose my shit. I think I might. I don't know. Or they could be like the New York Jets, because I know there's probably some Jet fans that may be listening to this or that are listening from me because I'm yelling and can hear me out the window, that are probably screaming, going, we're going to fuck that pick up, Jules. Stop worrying.
John,
we always fuck up our picks.
John, before you go, John, just real quick, Jules said a couple drinks. Last year during the draft, it was like 6 hours. I got so hammered that I called sick the next day. All right, go ahead, John. So it's going to be the same. It's going to be repeat again, especially with 2 draft picks. I'm going to drink twice as much.
We're going to do it live this year, or we're just going to record?
We got to do it like record live the fucking shit like we did last year, because man, I'm going to get fucking sloshed again. Especially
record
with
live. We're also going to record live. We're also going to keep it open. So we're inviting people. We're going to start putting that out there. We're definitely going to record live like we did last year. We had a couple of guests that joined us, but we're also going to invite some listeners. So those of you who've been loyally listening, those of you that follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all the 9 yards, we're going to have you call me for a pick or two throughout the night, commenting on some of the Giants. There's going to be a few guys selected. We're going to reach out to you, whatever. So definitely keep in mind. And look, if you think you should be on that show and come join us on the live recording, hit us up. You know where to find us. You know what I mean? We're at the BBONYG podcast, right, on Twitter. That's the handle. It's the same thing for the email. It's the BBONYG. Mike, you say the email, because that one's long and elongated. But, you know, you can hit us up individually. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, definitely do that. That's what we're looking to do for this year. So, yes. And we hope that you drink so that, you know, you have a couple of drinks on air with us as well, because that's what we like to do. But that's what's coming up for the draft. So, sorry, getting back to things. Getting on topic here now.
We'll all get fucking hammered. But I want to hear John's opinion on the hype on Cross.
Cross would be then the 3rd tackle taken.
Correct.
Yeah, he would be
in the top 5, bro.
Top 5.
I know that's
so the 3rd best.
What happened?
The 3rd best tackle, and we take him at 5. Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so.
I don't know, man. I want offensive linemen, man. I said it. I was, by this time last year, it was AVT or bust. You know, fucking every podcast for like 6 in a row. I'm all about offensive linemen, but I get nervous, bro. You got 3. What are the chances that you're gonna have 3 top 5 caliber players at the same position in the same draft?
I don't see it.
That gets me really nervous. I think that might be forcing it. I don't know individually whose players, like which player is actually going to be turned out to be good and which one's just going to be hype right now. Yeah. And hopefully, you know, if we do draft a 3rd guy, hopefully it was hype on the first 2 and we actually got the gem being the 3rd one to pick. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Hey, Tristan Wirfs, wasn't he the 3rd tackle drafted? And listen, I'm still pulling for my boy Andrew Thomas, but he was the 3rd one. That's just a quick argument there.
Well, the one thing Cross did play in his pro day today, he did, you know, all his work was at right tackle. He didn't let up a pressure or a sack. So, I mean, that's saying something, but he's going against college kids. He's not going against
he's also going in practice too.
Right, it's practice. Like, are they really?
It's not like some of these other guys, you know, that do this all day long are lining up against them.
Yeah, like, you know,
TJ not going against them right now. You know what I mean?
Right, like stop. Like, I think they're blowing smoke. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the Giants are going in a different direction. Is this regime really going to put it out there? They're like, oh my God, we love them so much, we're going to draft them. Come on, I don't see it.
I got a crazy one. I got a crazy one too, that literally just hit me during the podcast right now. You know, we've been talking about all this craziness, you know, like the old school shit, you know, 1999, 2000. So like the wheels are just turning with crazy shit that you've seen throughout lifetime in drafts. And one in particular, right? How we got Eli Manning, right? What if at 5, right? Here's the crazy scenario. Let's say at 5, Thibodeau's gone, Hutch is gone, you know, Neal is gone, Icky's gone, right? And now you're sitting at 5 where we start raising the questions of possibly, you know, Hamilton, all other bullshit. What if there, right? Because the Giants just got this inside scoop, and they got a gut feeling that there is a team that really wants Malik Willis. What if at 5 they take Malik Willis, but then trade him? You know what I'm trying to say? Where all of a sudden they take Malik Willis at 5, and now they start dangling him like this because they know, John, listen, because they know people are interested, but no one wants to bite on an actual trade. So now when you take the player, Now that player is fucking gone. You know what I'm trying to say? Where they think they might have enough talent to develop this kid, right? But at the same time, they might just dangle him like a fucking carrot out there, like the Chargers did when they took Eli Manning, right?
That's dangerous.
And now you got to give up a fucking boat because now Malik Willis is off the board. And now you want this guy? What are you going to give me for him? You know what I'm saying?
If Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett had an older brother named Peyton Manning and a father named Archie Manning,
well, listen, they do it all the time, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
It's you're devaluing the bro.
It's risky. It's risky as fuck. Don't get me wrong. But
hell yeah,
it's beyond risky, bro. Because what's really the upside? You're gonna either trade away your top 5 pick and get nothing for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Period.
Or then you keep
Malik squeeze another first-round pick out of another team.
But then
you don't keep
but then it puts the rest 3 things immediately. It puts the rest 3 things immediately. 1, you're not taking the third tackle off the board. 2, you're not reaching, which they quote unquote reaching for a corner with Saucer or Stingley. You're not grabbing a safety that is one of the weakest positions in the NFL, I've heard sometimes, right? That anybody can play safety. You can move other guys to safety. You're not reaching for any of that shit, and no one's knocking on your door to give you a trade at 5. So at that point in time, you eliminate all that shit off the board. And now a Seattle or fucking Carolina at 6 or any of those teams are like, fuck yeah, we can take Malik Willis if we want. He's gone. That's it. He is now a New York Giant. And you know what? If you want him, you're going to have to give us 2 first-round picks.
They have to have something work. Go ahead, John.
I was just saying, you would need to have multiple teams who are in love with him, where they're all going to be throwing multiple first-round picks. Because if you have one team that's interested in him, they don't have to overpay for him. So now you're taking a top 5, whatever value you want to put on that asset. Say, and if it's money, it's a fucking $100,000 that asset. You need to be able to find somebody who's willing to fucking actually give you more than that to make it worth it, because you're not going to have a first-round pick anymore. You know, we have 7, but that's a different story. You'd need to be able to get that plus to make it worthwhile, or else why are you making that kind of a risk? Like if you went down to Atlantic City and you had to put fucking $1,000 on black. Oh shit. My brother-in-law just had his 3rd kid just right now.
Oh, congratulations.
Nice, yeah.
Congratulations to Pete and Dina.
His name is Eli Manning.
Alexia.
You see, look. You just had a life event occur instantaneously as this topic has occurred. And I'm going to throw one crazy thing at you so that you can literally reach back and like thank him and congratulate him, all that shit. John, you're a sales guy, right? What's the biggest code or rule when it comes to sales? Supply and demand.
Or don't fart in the room.
Without taking Malik Willis and just saying that, oh, well, does anybody want to trade up because we have a supply that's everlasting here? The demand becomes less. But once that demand is shrunk and Malik Willis is no longer on the fucking board, teams that were penciling him in, teams that thought they could trade up at 16 and then trade to 10 or something, are no longer in the equation. It's gone. This dude was snatched off the fucking field. It changes the outlook of what people think. I know it's insane. I know
that's insane. Yeah, it's fucking insane. You have to have all this.
But then look at it this way: you don't need Malik Willis to start this year. The kid could literally sit back on the bench and learn. He can learn from Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. All right, and you can literally groom this kid. If there's no buyers, look again. It would have to be the people who are sniffing around. There has to be something where like they couldn't get a deal done. You know, like all that shit has to factor in. But look, I don't know, man. It's daring. You still got the 7th pick. You could still draft you could draft Cross at 7, right? You could still get your defensive end in the 2nd round. You could still get a tight end in the 3rd round. You know what I'm trying to say?
It don't work that way, Jules. You have to have these trades worked out beforehand, because listen, the only way I'm trading number 5 out, this is the only way. And I know I kind of explained it on podcast.
Trades happen all the time in the draft. Yeah. I mean, the 49ers traded up to 3.
No, the only way I trade out of number 5, like, right? If we trade number 5, we're getting from that team, we're getting one of their starting offensive linemen and their number 1 draft pick. That's the only fucking way I'm getting out of number 5. And I'm not going back late in the 1st round. I'm going mid-teens. That's as late as I will go from number 5. Not even that. I would probably go 10, 11, 12, and that'd probably be the cutoff right there.
That's it. Getting a 2nd round pick too.
Yeah, and multiple picks, no doubt. No fucking doubt.
Right. No, man, I think the gamble they're trying to fucking play that game. It has way more bad outcomes than good outcomes. And even if you're slightly overdrafting the third tackle, I'd rather do that and get, whatever the equivalent of a fucking mid third round pick for it and shore up. Because listen, if you got two tackles that are first round quality tackles as your fucking bookends, I mean, that is fucking
pretty nice.
Great thing to fucking have to go forward with if they could play to their draft status to some degree. It doesn't have to be, top 4 overall. You need to be a Hall of Famer. Like, you don't have to do that, but you could be two really, really good high quality offensive tackles, man.
But
Thomas is 24, 25, 24.
But are you giving up, John? Are you giving up on Matt Pert so quickly at being our star right tackle?
No, I have faith in Matt Pert.
That's tough.
I have faith in Matt Pert.
Yeah, we were saying that on this podcast for like a year. Like, hey, if we have our left tackle and our right tackle, it's just the same. Matt Pert he had a back injury and then the ACL. So like, I don't want to totally give up on him yet. And I don't want to reach for a fucking tackle at right tackle to make everybody feel uncomfortable, make people feel uncomfortable. I just want the best player, man. That's it. Hands down. Yeah. Best player.
I'm telling you right now, guys. I know it's
Jules just likes to gamble, John. Jules just likes to gamble. That's why he's throwing that out there.
That's exactly.
He'll draft 2 quarterbacks. Jules, you'll draft 2 quarterbacks.
I'm like,
you
I expected that answer from John 100% because he's not a gambler. He doesn't play that route. He's very conservative. He wants to keep shit the way it is. But you, Mr. fucking crazy man, that'll put in like an 18 parlay and put like 1,000 on it to win like $1 million. I'm surprised that you wouldn't see the vision in this crazy ass gamble. And
I do, but that's insane. That's going like do like some like betting like the
because betting 7-leg parlay on it and putting $1,000 on it to win $1 million isn't fucking insane.
That's what I'm saying. Right? That's what I'm saying. Drafted a quarterback at 5 and 7, it'd be more crazy. Imagine you would draft a quarterback at 5 and 7. You draft Pickett and fucking Willis at 5 and 7 and try to dangle them in trades.
So here's the thing: if there was a team that was willing to give up multiple first-round picks to trade for Malik Willis. Well, multiple, a couple first-round picks, a couple fucking seconds, or whatever the story is, to now trade the Giants for Malik Willis, wouldn't they would have just rather just traded with the Giants and just traded up to get the pick instead and make the pick themselves? Like if they if they valued him so highly, why wouldn't they have just made the trade with the Giants to lock up the player?
Just simply, the only thing I can answer to that is just simply said that because he's still available. And there's no guarantee that the Giants are going to take him. There's no guarantee Carolina is going to take him. So now what the fuck? We don't have to, we'll roll the dice. But if he's gone, that demand is now, the supply is now gone.
Wow.
It's just the law of physics that the supply now, when the supply low, the demand that comes high now. So look, maybe they were saying we'll give you like a second or a third round pick for that. And then all of a sudden they were like, you know what? Fuck it, we'll take Malik Willis. And now everybody's like, oh shit, now they're scrambling. We got to settle for little hands. We got to settle for Desmond Riddler. We don't know what we're doing here. And all of a sudden they're like, fuck, we'll give you a first round pick. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this could be a thing.
Bro, teams, people aren't going into the draft surprised at shit, bro. Like they know what their value is on the player. So they know what their value is on the player probably fucking already. And it's not going to change almost at all until the draft. So there's nothing that's going to happen during the draft that's all of a sudden going to make their value skyrocket. So they would have gone into the draft knowing that they have an extremely high value on a player. At that point, then they would just be trading for the pick. They're not going to not attempt to make that trade. That's bananas.
You know what?
And you're putting yourself in a position where now you have 2 quarterbacks on your roster, and every team in the league knows you have to trade one of them. You're not going to keep both of them, and now you've decreased the value of both of the assets to be able to trade.
Oh no, I mean I would never do the Pickett and fucking Willis. I would never do that.
No. But Daniel Jones, you have a quarterback.
Yeah, cross at 7.
Because one of them is going to play, one of them isn't going to play. So they know you're trading your backup quarterback, whoever that's going to be.
Well, no, not unless he sits on the bench, like Trey Lance did last year. like Pat Mahomes did.
Yeah,
like
but
Aaron
Garoppolo,
Rodgers did.
but Jules,
Quite a few
Garoppolo.
of these stars did that kind of stuff.
But now Garoppolo's he's not even getting traded. He's only commanded like a second round pick. Nobody wants to even go like a second round pick for him because they know he's probably going to get dealt because they got Trey Lance. Like all I know is this to be true. I know, Jules, you're a gambler man. You're going to be the next person that's going to be living in Azizistan or whatever the fuck these fucking listeners listen to this show is. But we gotta wrap this show up, man. It's been an hour. So do we have any other things before we go? I know you want to talk about gambling thing.
We'll save the Giants wish list for next week. All right.
Yeah.
There was one thing I wanted to bring up as far as what the expectations were around this time last year, what the demands were, what the checklist was, and how they were met and how they weren't met. It's just funny how things do change from year to year. And that's something we're going to talk about next week for sure. Mike, you said you wanted to add something real quick?
Yeah, I think you mentioned something about a gambling thing. You want to save for the end of the podcast a little?
Yeah, of course. Because, we kind of let into that about gambling, right?
Yep.
So according to Caesars Sportsbook, as of right now, no shock here, even though Aiden Hutchinson did not show up for pro day for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? He was supposed to go and work out exclusively for the Jaguars, and he turned it down. Now, that could mean one or two things. Wow. That could just mean that he's like, you know what? I know they're taking me. It's a fucking done deal. Why do I got to go out and perform for you? Or it could be like, please don't fucking take me. And there goes your fucking trade, okay? And Jacksonville's going to have to trade out of that one spot. But outside of all that, I'll get into some of those conspiracy theories next week or something. But the top, they listed it as a top 5, and this was CBS Sports. I was listening it, but this is according to Caesars Sportsbook, right? These are the odds. Currently, Aiden Hutchinson is minus 400. So that means he is that much of a favorite as of today, March 22nd. It's going to change. We'll keep an eye on this as we get closer. But as of today, he is by far the overall favorite to go number 1, which means that for those of you who don't bet, and we explain it all the time, you'd have to bet $400 to win $100. Yeah, that Aiden's going to be picked first. Okay. Second, believe it or not, guys, who do you think is second according to Caesars today? There's actually a tie, but who do you think the two guys are tied for second to be the overall number 1 overall, of course?
Evan Neal.
Yeah,
that's
I would
one of them.
Say him.
That's one of the. That's definitely one of them. Evan Neal is 100% one of them.
Kyle Hamilton, maybe.
Nope. Mike.
Kevin.
Nope. Sticky Icky.
Really? He moved all the way up that.
He moved all the way up, man. That's what worries me about my man Sticky Icky. But they're both
NFL offseason is a fucking wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, of course it is.
But Vegas knows though. If Hutchinson's minus 400, he's going number 1. You could probably tell.
Yeah, probably. Because they're both plus 550 on that. All right.
Plus 550.
So they're both plus 550, which is interesting.
To go number 1, not number 2, right?
This is going number 1. Right. Next week, I'll look into like what the odds are for the second, third pick, that kind of stuff. But literally, this is just number 1 overall pick, right? So they're both tied at plus 550, which means that if you bet 100, you'll win 550, right?
Nice.
And then number 4 is Thibodeau. He's listed at 13-1 right now.
Holy, she fell
13-1, man. Yo, that's like tempting to just throw $20 on that shit. You know what I'm saying?
I can't.
I'll pay you out $260. You know what I mean?
Wow, he's fallen.
How Thibodeau has fallen, right? I mean, listen, they were saying that he was going to be number 1 a couple of months ago. Then he was definitely 1 or 2, and now he's all the way down to being the 4th favorite to be the number 1 overall pick at a 13-1 spread. And then, just because, and I don't know if this is the next one, I didn't really check the full list. Again, it was what CBS was posting. But you know who they put 5th as the guy there? Number 5 as the 5th guy with the odds and all that shit to go number 1? Any guesses? I think Jules was going a little crazy. He was doing a little Stephen A impersonation earlier. Who do you think they have 5th?
Malik Willis.
Boom! Malik Willis at 2,500 to 1.
Wow.
2,500 to 1.
And you don't want to take him at 5. I'm just saying. The guy supply and demand, all right?
That's crazy.
So supply and demand might be it. All right. But I definitely wanted to leave you guys on that. Obviously, we'll keep continuing showing you if any of those odds change, if Hutchinson goes up, especially with Pro Day going on all this week. We'll see how those things kind of change. There'll obviously be some additional signings. Where does Baker end up? Right? Are the Giants done with free agent signings?
Oh, fuck Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Baker watch, bro. There's so many like emojis, different images of him being shown around where he's like basically like people just sulking and not knowing what to do and like lost in the sauce. Like, it's crazy, man.
My fucking favorite thing that could possibly happen in life right now is fucking Baker Mayfield just gets outright released by the fucking Browns. He just makes
too
it
much against the cap, but yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, somehow, some way, some team trades for him, fucking ends up releasing him because he fucking is an asshole, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He signs with the Giants on like some fucking like minimum contract.
God, you
back up
Daniel Jones.
Back up.
Loses, and has a backup Daniel Jones, and then watch Daniel Jones go win a Super Bowl.
Carries his water bottle for him.
Well, here's the thing with that, right? Like, I can't believe you just brought that up because I was going to try to avoid that whole topic altogether. But Skip Bayless, right? We all know who Skip Bayless is, the fucking announcer for ESPN and whatever, analyst, whatever you call him, right? Skip Bayless went on saying that the Giants should go out of their way to trade for Baker Mayfield because he would come to New York and light it up. All right. So Skip, I'm gonna throw you a shout out when we're promoting this podcast, just because we did mention you at the very end of the draft, the end of this podcast.
I wouldn't mind.
My man Skip Bayless said that. We can get more into that next week. All right.
Yeah, before you wrap it up, Juice, I wouldn't mind Baker, honestly, to be our backup quarterback. I wouldn't mind.
He ain't gonna be the backup, man. And you're paying a lot of money, and
but not now.
There's a rumor to ask for a first round
pick. Not now. Cut him, and then you sign him. You're
gonna give up the fifth round pick you're gonna give up the fifth overall pick for Baker Mayfield, but you would take a shot on Malik Willis?
Oh no, I just want Baker as a backup. Just beat Daniel Jones.
I want to sign him for like $700,000, bro. I want to fucking disrespect the motherfucker.
Just beat Daniel Jones, bitch. That's all I want.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
Exactly. I want to fucking sign him out of spite.
That's it.
So listen, we got a lot
up to New York, Baker. You gotta put a title with that.
About Daniel Jones fucking winning.
Make that a title, John. Make that a title somehow with Baker in it.
Okay. Baker Mayfield might be a topic of discussion next week, depending on what happens in the next 7 days. All right, we're definitely going to talk about a wish list that I found where people were saying that these are the things that the Giants need to do to make themselves competitive and see how much was actually taken care of and how much opinions have changed in 1 year's time. We're definitely going to keep track of the odds. We're definitely going to keep promoting draft night. We want to get out there and get some information. We're going to have some of the guys that participated with the gambling that we did in those events. Maybe the winner will get them to come on. We're definitely going to have different people joining us when we do the live draft this coming, for the draft this year. So lots of things going on. You know where to hit us up. We'll be back next week. We're going to be on every week leading up into the draft, right? Might have to make an adjustment midway through the April, but we'll figure it all out then and figure out what night we're going on. But until then, listen, stay safe. Keep on the draft boards. Be smart when you're answering on Twitter because you don't want to look like a retard. Make sure you read. You don't want to look silly, all right? Silly is the real word. Sorry. You don't want to look silly when you're responding back to people's tweets. Make sure you read the entire tweet. Sometimes read the tweet twice, all right? Do yourself a favor before you respond to a tweet. If there's one thing I can leave you all with tonight is before you respond to a tweet, read it twice and read it in its entirety and make sure you read it out loud before you respond because too often people read half of it and they're just already responding.
Don't be an idiot.
Leave it with that tonight, all right? And we're going to leave it as Jules made a case to fucking draft Malik Willis at number 5. I don't know. But with all that said and done, we're done. We're out of here. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.